all 18 confirmed characters for the Mortal Kombat 2 movie. Cole Young, the protagonist of the first movie and someone who pleased a grand total of 0% of the fans, is back for the sequel. Cole Young was introduced as a failed MMA fighter who gets thrown right into the chaos of Mortal Kombat for one reason. He's a direct descendant of Scorpion and carries a birthmark with the dragon symbol on his body, which works as a kind of invitation to the mystical tournament. Overall, this character has zero charisma. He exists mainly as the movie's audience surrogate and ends up stealing screen time from characters we actually want to see, like Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Sonya, Jax, and Scorpion. He does return in MK2, but according to rumors, he won't have much screen time. That likely means he could die very early in the movie at the hands of Shao Kahn, making room for legacy characters and for the new main protagonists, Johnny Cage and Kitana. Sonia Blade. In the first film, Sonya is portrayed as a historian and former soldier who's fascinated by the history of the mystical tournament and does everything she can to understand it. In the games, Sonya is a high-ranking military officer who enters the tournament after an incident involving an outlaw mercenary and fugitive, Kano. She's the first female character to appear in the franchise and a fan favorite, with a storyline full of twists and turns throughout the games. In the movie, she isn't explored that deeply, and as mentioned before, her backstory is changed in a somewhat strange way. However, her tough, aggressive personality is still there. She returns in MK2, and rumors suggest she makes it out alive by the end of the story. We'll see. Jax Briggs. In the games, Jax is a higher-ranking military officer than Sonya Blade and enters the tournament to rescue his friend who was kidnapped by strange creatures. His story in the game spans over 30 years, and during that time he fights monsters and ninjas, loses his arms in combat, gets married, becomes a father, turns into a zombie, comes back to life, and becomes a henchman for the Titan of Time, a life and death that's truly chaotic. In the first movie, Jax is the one who guides Cole and explains the tournament to him. The core of the character remains mostly the same, with Jax protecting Cole and his family while fighting the powerful Sub-Zero, losing his arms in the process. He returns in MK2 with his metal arms, which in this version are part of his arcana, his powers, rather than technology created by the government to help him. Jax was actually solid in the first movie, we have to admit. It's just a shame he wasn't explored more.
Kano, one of the best characters in the movie, Kano is returning in MK2 and is expected to surprise once again. Kano stays very faithful to his game counterpart, a loudmouthed scumbag mercenary driven purely by greed who has no problem betraying his allies if it means a bigger personal payoff. In the games, Kano is a recurring character who constantly causes trouble for Raiden's warriors, mainly thanks to his iconic cybernetic eye, which gives him an edge in combat. In the movie, however, that eye, just like Jax's arms, is part of his arcana, a power he unlocks over time through training. Completely unnecessary, honestly. Kano and Jax didn't need this explanation at all. But hey, maybe in MK2 we'll finally see the character's classic eye show up. Kung Lao. One of the most charismatic characters in the movie, Kung Lao keeps the same foundation from the games. A Shaolin monk with insane combat skills, who can use his arcana to teleport over short distances and channel that same energy to control his iconic hat, which works both as a deadly weapon and a defensive shield. Kung Lao dies halfway through the first movie, so the expectation is that he returns here as a corrupted warrior, following the orders of Shang Tsung or even Quan Chi, and causing serious trouble for Liu Kang. Liu Kang, the eternal protagonist of the franchise, was completely sidelined in the first movie. Anyone who plays and follows the games knows that Liu Kang is the chosen one, the most skilled, noble, and deadly fighter Earthrealm has ever seen, using his abilities to defend his realm from evil. In the movie, Liu's look actually works. The outfit, the face, the powers, all solid. But narratively, he's pushed aside as the story chooses to focus on Cole Young and his adventures running from Shang Tsung's henchmen. He returns in MK2, giving fans hope for a much bigger role. But some shady rumors claim he might only have a small part and could die very early in the movie alongside Cole Young, just to make more room for Johnny Cage and Kitana. Let's hope that's nothing more than speculation. Shang Tsung. The sorcerer appears in the first movie as the behind-the-scenes villain, giving orders and sending his best pawns into battle. In the games, he's one of the best characters in the entire roster, with an imposing presence, a cool backstory, and pure evil running through his veins, killing his enemies and stealing their souls. In the first film, however, he mostly just gives orders, and his look is very generic, far removed from the classic game design. We hope he gets a stronger role here, though honestly it doesn't seem likely, since the main villain of the story appears to be Shao Kahn. The chances of Shang Tsung being sidelined again are pretty high, which is a real shame because he's the coolest villain in the entire franchise, and I say that with zero fear of being judged.
Noob Saibot. Even though Shang Tsung is the one pulling the strings in the first movie, the true main villain of the story is Sub-Zero. He appears as the first Sub-Zero from the games, Bihan, and just like in the source material, he's pure evil incarnate, a lethal assassin who uses his freezing powers to kill anyone who crosses his path, including Scorpion and his family. We know he dies at the end of the first movie after the final fight with Scorpion. However, just like in the games, he's expected to return, resurrected by the sorcerer Shang Tsung or Quan Chi, taking on a new identity that draws power from the shadows and operating under the name Noob Saibot. Sub-Zero was one of the best things about the first movie, and I really hope that same level of quality carries over to Noob Saibot. Scorpion. If Sub-Zero carried half of the first movie on his back, the other half was carried by Scorpion. The film follows a path very similar to the games, showing the death of Hanzo Hasashi and the birth of the vengeful specter known as Scorpion, who spends years in hell waiting for his chance to return and take revenge. The actor reprises the role in the sequel, and rumors suggest his screen time will be brief, just like in the first movie, though slightly longer, which is always welcome. Scorpion and Sub-Zero form the best duo in the film, and the opening of the previous movie is almost perfect, showing their first clash in a genuinely chilling scene. Ideally, we'd get a lot more of this Scorpion, but honestly, if he has more screen time than in the first movie, I'm already satisfied.
Raiden. In the games, Raiden is basically a co-protagonist of the saga alongside Liu Kang. He's the god of thunder and plays a crucial role throughout the story, even being responsible for the beginning of the time manipulation chaos that defined Mortal Kombat in more recent years. In the first movie, though, Raiden doesn't really stand out. Let's be honest. His role is short, limited, and kind of dull, very far from the charismatic Thunder God we're used to in the games. Hopefully in MK2 his screen time is increased and we finally get to see some real battle scenes involving the God of Thunder.
Jerrod. This casting caught everyone by surprise. Jerrod is a very minor character in Mortal Kombat, almost a background figure, usually mentioned only in lore and dialogue. In the games, he was the king of Edania, husband of Sindel and Princess Kitana, at least until Shao Kahn arrives, invades the realm, kills the king, and takes his kingdom, his wife, and his daughter for himself. Since Kitana is confirmed in the new movie, Jerrod's appearance will likely be brief, probably showing up in flashbacks from her past, with Shao Kahn killing him on screen.
Johnny Cage. One of the biggest criticisms of the first movie was the decision to create an entirely new character as the protagonist, especially a boring, generic, and charisma-free one, while completely leaving out Johnny Cage, one of the most beloved and charismatic fighters in the franchise. In the games, Johnny is a former action movie star who enters the Mortal Kombat tournament to prove to the world and to himself that he's a real fighter, not the fraud many people believe him to be. That's his game backstory, and from what we can tell, the movie seems to be following that same idea. Johnny finally makes his debut in MK2, and judging by the casting of Karl Urban, who is extremely popular right now, he's expected to have a major role and even take center stage in the story. This lines up perfectly with the rumors about the early deaths of Cole Young and Liu Kang right at the beginning of the film. Kitana. Another fan favorite, Kitana is finally set to appear in MK2. In the first movie, we only get a small reference to her fans, which are seen stored inside Raiden's temple. In the games, Kitana is a princess of Edenia who was deceived by her adoptive father, Shao Kahn, and served as a deadly assassin in his name for years, until she discovers who he really is and learns that he even ordered the creation of a clone of her through the sorcerer Shang Tsung. That's when she switches sides. In the first movie, we only see Mileena, but honestly, it looks like Mileena and Kitana won't have much in common here. Mileena
was completely thrown into the previous film with little development, while Kitana has already appeared in promotional images and looks extremely faithful to the games. Hot rumors suggest she may become a co-protagonist alongside Johnny Cage. Not bad at all. I like that. Quan Chi. Another very welcome surprise in the cast is Quan Chi, who is set to appear at some point in the story. In the games, Quan Chi is a dark sorcerer who uses Netherrealm magic to perform the most profane rituals, always following the teachings of the fallen dark god Shinnok. Alongside Shang Tsung, Quan Chi is one of the most dangerous, treacherous enemies that Raiden and his warriors have faced across multiple timelines. Even though many fans expected this movie to focus more heavily on the first 3 games of the franchise, Quan Chi is officially part of the cast. Rumors suggest his role will be brief, possibly appearing near the end of the movie to set up a sequel. Shao Kahn, the main villain of the story, or at least that's what everyone's been saying. Shao Kahn is the Emperor of Outworld and one of the most powerful beings in the entire Mortal Kombat universe. In the games, he's the most iconic villain of the franchise, repeatedly serving as the main antagonist across multiple entries. It looks like in MK2, he'll be the ultimate evil to be defeated. According to the rumors floating around online, he's the one who kills Liu Kang and Cole Young right at the beginning of the movie during the early stages of the tournament to instantly establish the level of urgency and raw power that Raiden's warriors will be up against. A hardcore, old-school villain. There's no way around it. Jade. In the games, Jade is Kitana's friend and bodyguard, initially acting as a minor antagonist, at least until she understands the situation better and switches sides, fighting alongside her friend during the tournament and many events that follow. In the early years of the franchise, Jade's visual design was very similar to Kitana's and Melina's, but she wields a staff and a boomerang, and the color green is dominant in her outfit. We don't yet know how big her role will be in the movie, but insiders claim her look is somewhat different from what fans are used to, including her personality. Some test screening viewers reportedly found her annoying, which could bother more traditional fans. Are they going for forced messaging? Yikes. Baraka. In the classic games, Baraka is a member of a different species from Outworld known as the Tarkatans. Even though he's instantly recognizable to almost any fan of the franchise, Baraka was usually portrayed as a henchman or disposable muscle for bigger villains. That changed over time. In the current timeline of MK1, Baraka is a man who becomes a monster after being infected by the Tarkatan plague. He ends up leading his people against the injustices they're forced to endure, becoming a powerful general and an ally of Empress Melina. Rumors suggest that Baraka's MK2 design will be extremely faithful to the games, with a strong focus on practical effects and makeup, using CGI only when absolutely necessary. Baraka on the big screen? That's crazy. Sindel. Sindel plays a crucial role in the games, especially in MK3 and MK9. She didn't appear in the first movie, but she's fully confirmed for MK2. In the games, Sindel is portrayed as the former Empress of Outworld, the widow of Jerrod, and Shao Kahn's queen. Some versions of the story depict her as a kind and gentle ruler who was corrupted by Quan Chi's dark magic when she was resurrected. More recent retcons, however, suggest she was always a villain, even helping Shao Kahn murder Jerrod, whom she saw as a weak king. Honestly, I don't think she'll get much screen time. My guess is that both Sindel and Jerrod will appear mostly in flashbacks and memories from Kitana's past, rather than actively fighting in the tournament. More of a prestige cameo than anything else.